Well, if AD is a median, then D has to be,
They're the points, so the two sides are congruent.
yeah, these have to be congruent. So 4x plus 9. Literally with yesterday's lesson and today's lesson, you're either making things equal to each other or equal to 90. Those are your only options, right? Yeah, equal to each other, equal to 90. So what do we get here? X equals 5, good. Now, is that all we had to find?
No. You find 80.
No, it says find X if AD. So
Oh.
I just always want to make sure after we find the variable, go back and make sure there's nothing else we had to solve for. But that was all, right? Just
I
fine.
don't know why I didn't see
It's okay. Even if you tried to find AD, do we have any information for that?
that. No.
No. Okay, this one. Sorry, I'm going to just erase this stuff. Okay, altitude. This is the fourth segment. So there's 4 important segments in this chapter. We did perpendicular bisector, angle bisector, median, and this is the last one, altitude. Have we heard of altitude before? Like an airplane flies at an altitude of 30,000 feet. What does that mean? That means how high it is, right? So if we're thinking of altitude when it comes to a triangle, it's the height of the triangle. So we're thinking of altitude as the height. But do you recall when you're looking at a triangle, when you're trying to find the height, what does the height always have to be with the base? It's got to be perpendicular, okay? Now, I could draw the height of this triangle like here. However, I gave specific directions. I want the altitude from C to AB. So think about taking your ruler, right? I'm going to hold it kind of this way, and I want to try to picture the line that's going to go perpendicular to AB. So that's going to look like that, kind of. Make sense? Okay, yesterday was perpendicular bisector. The perpendicular bisector doesn't start at a vertex. Okay, the important thing about there's one perpendicular bisector doesn't start with a vertex, but angle bisector, median, and altitude all start from a vertex. Okay, so this one has to start from the vertex perpendicular to the opposite side. What's the problem with the next one? It doesn't work. Why? It's okay. When I have an obtuse angle, I've got to extend AB. So use your ruler and extend the side. I'll use a dotted line just to kind of show. Why doesn't it work? Try to take your ruler and make a right angle with this side AB. You can't, right? But now, if I draw it like this, I'll get a nice right angle with that opposite side. So, when you're drawing to an acute angle, or sorry, an obtuse angle is what I meant to say, it's always going to go outside the triangle like that. Okay. If the triangle is an acute triangle, it's always going to be inside. If you're drawing to the opposite side that has an obtuse angle, it's always going to end up going outside the triangle. What if it were a right triangle?
Well, then you have the exact angle.
Yeah, so technically this or this could be the altitude. Okay.
What's the difference between this or the altitude and the
Perpendicular bisector. Perpendicular bisector looks like this.
But they
both make a right angle, but does this one start from the vertex?
Oh, so that's the only difference.
That's the difference. Well, not just that, but this one also has to go through the midpoint. When we did the altitude, does the altitude cut the other side in half? Oops. Like, are these two sides congruent to each other? Not necessarily. They could be, but they're not always going to be. All right, next page. Sorry, I'm gonna. Okay, what do we have? HK is an altitude, so we want to find the value of x and the length of IJ. What do you think?
3x plus 3 equals 9.
Yeah, so there's nothing that we can do with.
X plus A equals.
Is 2
I know, but
equations?
if this is an altitude,
Is this
are-
2 equations?
is this a midpoint? Did altitude have anything to do with a midpoint?
No.
So
No.
why should it be x plus 3 plus x plus 8 equals 9? No, it's
Just 3x plus 3 is 90. So 3x equals 87. Okay. Now, once I have that value of x, now I could figure out the lengths of each of these segments. So if x is 29, 29 plus 8 gives us 37, and 29 minus 9 gives us 20. Yeah, so IJ are these two combined. All right. Length of CD given AB is a median. Okay, now we have to remember, what did a median do?
the 2 sides are
Two sides are congruent. Remember what I've been saying over and over again. We're either setting things equal to 90 or setting things equal to each other. There's no right angles in here at all. Median doesn't have anything to do with that. Okay, x squared plus 5x minus 9 equals 2x squared minus x. We have a quadratic, so means we want to move everything to one side. We could look to factor, we can use quadratic formula, one of those methods. I'm going to move everything to the right side. So this will be minus 6x and then plus 9. Remember our factoring. Two numbers that multiply together to give us 9, add up to negative 6, so negative 3 and negative 3.
x equals 3.
Just x equals 3. Now, what am I actually looking for? CD. So, okay, so let's plug that in here. Let's see what we get. You get it yet? Justin? Oh, got different answers. 30? 30? Well, let's see. 3 squared 9 plus 15. Then that'll, so this one will be 15. Well, these two have to be equal, so 15 and 15 would give us 30. But I would plug it into both just to make sure. We should get 30 here. So 2 times 3 squared, so that'll be 2 times 9, 18, minus 3 is 15. Good, so we do get 15 and 15. Good. All right, last two. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I had my screen frozen by accident. Okay, find the measure of angle GFH. So we're looking for this angle up here. If FH is an altitude.
I should do the linear pair first. Well, it's a linear pair.
Oh, okay, so we could do linear pair. If this is 127, this one have to be 53, good.
And then H is 9.
Right, if it's an altitude, that tells us it's 90. So we can find that one. Am I going too quickly, or does this seem pretty straightforward? It's easy?
The side of the triangle can be negative, the side of
An angle cannot be negative.
the side from the other side.
That side can't be negative either. Now, next year in Algebra 2, we do have negative angles, but in geometry, there's no negative angles.
Imaginary numbers. Is that a thing?
What's that?
Imaginary numbers.
Yeah, imaginary numbers.
No.
I heard that was an awful.
Oh, that's me scared. Who'd you hear? I don't believe it. Oh my goodness. Imaginary numbers are easy peasy. Okay.
She showed us
Radicals were the most, were the worst thing ever.
calculus problem on the board. She
Oh.
was like, oh yeah, you guys are gonna like dive into this.
Oh, baloney.
I think she said this exact word.
But the worst was when she just kept on doing radicals and making them harder and harder.
I did it with Q3 to like 4-3.
No, and then she made it go up to like 8. Root 8.
Oh, the 8 through, it's so bad.
Listen, I mean, I wouldn't say calculus is easy or anything, but if you, as long as you keep up with everything that you've been, doing this year, next year, pre-calc, it all builds. Now, there's some things in geometry, like the geometry proofs, you're not going to do after geometry.
So why are we doing it?
Unless, hey, because they're fun. No, I think it's actually interesting. I have one of my seniors came back and said, actually writing papers, like geometry proofs, help me to write like a research paper. Because one of my, they were saying like what they learned in geometry, like, okay, what am I given? Right? Now, what can you base off of that? What can you build off of that? Oh, then these triangles are congruent. Oh, then by that. So when you write a research paper, like in an upper level science class, like you write it much in the same way. So it's not necessarily that you're going to do a geometry proof again,
So when you said that.
but it's the logic behind it. Well, geometry is all about the logic piece, right? Counterexample, always, sometimes, or never, that drive it crazy, right? But it gets that deeper level of thinking. Okay, almost done. A, B, C. We graphed it. What do we want to do? AG is a median. Oh, but there's no G. So how are we going to find G?
You average the things.
Good. So let's think back to our midpoint formula. X1 plus X2 over 2. Y1 plus Y2 over 2. Look familiar? Again, this is one of those formulas that's not going to go away, just like distance formula.
What was X1 minus X2?
Nope. Average. When you want to, if you have two test scores and you want to average them, do you add them and divide by 2 or subtract them? Right? So when you're finding the midpoint, you're finding the average. Okay, now G is going to be the midpoint of which segment though? BC. So I want to take BC, right? And let's find that. So G is going to be 2 plus 6 over 2, 0 plus 4 over 2. So G is going to be the point, what, comma, what? All right, so let's find 4, comma 2, and we'll label it G. And the last step is to draw AG. And you know what, just so we have it in our notes that these two are congruent because this is the midpoint. See, what did I tell you? Easy lesson.